What happens when a bunch of Swedish aircraft engineers get bored of building flying things and decide to make a sports car instead? You get the Saab Sonett, a fiberglass wedge with the heart of a lawnmower and the soul of a snowplow. Light, odd, and underpowered, it was about as conventional as meatballs on a pizza. And yet, it tried, really tried, to be a sports car. The result? One of the strangest, most lovable failures in automotive history. Here's what happened. The underdog origins. Saab Sonett 1. It's 1956. Elvis is on the radio, everyone's smoking indoors, and Saab decides they're going to build a sports car. Their answer? The Sonett 1. Or as they call it, the Super Sport. Because calling it super slow wouldn't have been great marketing. Like many great things, it wasn't built in a factory. No, it was designed in a barn by a bunch of engineers named Rolf Medley and Sixten Sasson. Yeah, their names sound like kitchen appliances, but they actually made a two-seat roadster out of fiberglass and hope. It was powered by a 0.7-liter two-stroke engine producing 57 horsepower. It was about the same as a sewing machine and just as loud. But since the car weighed just 500 kilos, it could achieve 120 miles per hour. Only 6 were made. Why? Because just as they were getting ready to race it, the rulebook changed. Boom. End of production. Great car, wrong time. Saab as usual, but the Sonett wasn't dead yet. Hit like and subscribe and see how Saab brought the Sonett dream back to life after a decade later. Sonett 2 and the two-stroke disaster. Fast forward to '66 and Saab decides to give it another go with the Sonett 2. Still fiberglass, still lightweight, but now a hardtop coupe with a roll bar and a bit of luggage space. Once again, a tiny 0.8-liter two-stroke engine provided 60 horsepower, but it had to pull 740 kilograms, so there's that. The Sonett Jr. was a great drive, especially in the handling department, but not particularly fast. Additionally, you got something called a freewheel clutch system. It disengaged the drivetrain when the throttle wasn't being pressed, which basically meant the car would coast silently if you lifted off the throttle. The driving experience felt utterly unique, but also slightly terrifying at first. Like when nothing happened after downshifting. It was like driving an electric car way before Elon Musk was even born. Design-wise, it was a massive step forward. Gone was the open-top styling. In came a fastback roof, a camback rear end, and a surprisingly large luggage space. Saab clearly had their eyes on the US of A, where little British cars were all the rage. They genuinely believed a front-wheel drive Swedish oddball could outsell an MG. Unfortunately, Saab had to face the same problem, which the creators of the previously covered Motion Vega had to face: emissions regulations. America didn't like the smell of two-stroke, so the Sonett 2, with its ring-a-ding-ding engine, only lasted for 258 units before it was politely shown the door. But Saab had to pivot with the times, and they did, because their next move changed everything. The V4 revolution. Sonett V4. We got the Sonett V4 mid-1967. Not the Sonett 3, but the Sonett V4. Saab decided to ditch the two-stroke entirely. In came the Fortanis 1.5-liter V4 engine. It was so tall, they had to put a bulge in the bonnet just to fit it in. Saab, being Saab, didn't bother redesigning the chassis. No, as a result, it looked like a bit of a pimple on an otherwise sleek face. Even the company's very own designers hated it. But you know what? It worked. Torque improved and drivability skyrocketed. The Sonett V4 went like a real car now, and it didn't sound like a chainsaw anymore. Safety was another thing Saab took seriously. Front-wheel drive? Check. 3-point seatbelts? Of course. High-back bucket seats to prevent whiplash? Naturally. These additions were ahead of their time and gave the Sonett an edge, especially among safety-conscious buyers. Hence, this wasn't just a sports car, it was a socially responsible sports car. Between '67 and '69, Saab sold 1,610 Sonett V4s. It's not as rare as some of the cars we've covered here. While it still couldn't compete with its rear-wheel drive competitors like MGs or Triumphs, It appealed to drivers who wanted something truly different, quirky, and uniquely Scandinavian. Would you pick a quirky front-wheel drive Sonett V4 over a rear-wheel drive MG or Triumph? Don't answer yet, because Saab wasn't done experimenting. Sonett 3, Saab's final blow. By 1970, Saab took a good hard look at itself, like the average 9-to-5 worker does in the mirror after years of servitude. The company knew it needed a glow-up, so they tapped Italian designer Sergio Cagiola to sketch out what would become the Sonett 3. The result? Pop-up headlights, a full-width grille, and a more accessible rear glass hatch. The Italian flair could be seen throughout the car, but US safety regulations introduced oversized crash bumpers 2 years later, which looked like braces on a supermodel's face. Underneath, it was still very Sonett. Same V4, now bumped to 1.7 liters, still making 65 horsepower, but it had more torque and a smoother hood. Thank the stars. The interior got a makeover too, with a floor-mounted shifter and those glorious manually operated pop-ups. Because who needs electricity when you've got wrist strength? The 70s kept on getting worse with the oil crisis. People wanted fuel economy and cars that looked miserable. The Sonett, meanwhile, was fiberglass, had a name no one could pronounce, and looked like a spaceship designed by librarians. It was doomed. Cars like the Datsun 240Z blew everyone's minds, and Saab did not have someone like Jack Stratton to counter it like Ford did. By 1974, the Sonett was dead, gone, buried. Saab had made a little over 8,000 Sonett 3 models before pulling the plug. It's hard to compete with the likes of a 240Z, but the Sonett wasn't trying to win a horsepower war. It aimed to capture hearts with charm and quirk. Did it succeed? Let's find out. Legacy and modern appeal. With just over 10,000 Sonett models made in total, it should be rarer than an honest used car salesman. But no, despite their low numbers, Sonnets are surprisingly accessible today. You can buy one for the price of a used Toyota. For example, a decent Sonett 3 can be found for $10,000 to $15,000, making it an affordable classic for enthusiasts. Two-stroke Sonett 2s, being rare, should cost you the same as a full-spec new Honda Civic, and break down twice as much. But it will also get you twice the attention on the road and in vintage rallies, and you will love it twice as much. The Saab Sonett is much more than a car. It's an event, a statement, a fiberglass middle finger to conformity. It's like someone saw a Porsche and decided to make it slower and weirder, while sounding like an angry bee trapped in a Coke can. But it had something most sports cars lost the moment wind tunnels and spreadsheets took over: charm and a soul. Thanks for watching. Until next time, see you on the road.